Beau H. For use of submachine guns, do you think open bolt is better than closed bolt? What is your optimal rate of fire with a submachine gun? I think closed bolt has merit in terms of being able to keep dirt and crap and debris out of the system, as well as having a quicker lock time, for lack of a better term, for firing the first shot. Open bolt is better for just essentially cooling the gun, and it's simpler to manufacture. Therefore, you can make an open bolt gun cheaper, and that's why you saw so many World War II submachine guns being open bolt. If you have to choose between the two, I think closed bolt would be preferable by a modern stance. And optimal rate of fire for me has been just around 750 to 800 rounds per minute. I find 600 and below to be too slow to do anything but suppression fire. It kind of moves around a lot. And 1,000 rounds per minute, man, you can get a lot of rounds on one target real fast, but you deplete your ammunition out of your magazine very quickly. I find that around 700 something to 800 is just about right, where you can give a target a burst. You can also apply suppressive fire, but not deplete your magazine instantaneously. So that would be my thoughts on that, at least, from shooting quite a bit of submachine gun, actually. Alright, Elijah J. Karl, why do you think no one produces new production SVDs in the United States? They shouldn't be under any sort of patent, and once you get the basics down, could you not do cool things like the SVU? If the average price of an SVD is north of $5K now, I don't see why an SVD priced at $1,200 not selling like hotcakes. Well, one, if someone were to make an SVD in the United States, it would not be $1,200. I don't think that's viable. I think you're looking at $2,000, $2,500 or more, and then you have to wonder if there's a market for that. I can't answer that. I think the reason no one does this is because there are so many better options from a precision rifle perspective inside the United States. You can get an AR-15, an AR-10, or many other types of rifles that will shoot more accurately than an SVD. The SVD design is an excellent DMR that tends to be around a 2-minute gun, maybe a little more, maybe a little less on a good day. It's a long rifle that has its design origins in older lessons than we deal with now, and the 10-round magazines are another challenge. Now, of course, you could make bigger magazines as well. However, magazines is another problem. You have to make the magazines too. So, will someone ever make a reproduction or a U.S. manufactured SVD? Perhaps. I don't think they'll be $1,200. I don't think the market's as big as we think it is, even if they start hitting the prices they would hit at. And it would only be a collector that would really want them, because if they were looking for a performance-based rifle, the SVD is not your first choice and wouldn't be your best choice, even if it was competitively priced on the American market. It would be strictly something for people that want SVDs, not someone specifically going for performance, and I don't know how large that market is. Maybe someone will step up to that plate. Trey A. Simple question. What made you decide to do InRange? How did it come all about? How did it happen? Well, it kind of happened by getting to know Ian. So we've talked about this before, but way back then I was still running the 2-gun action challenge match. I've been doing that for 12 plus years now. And I wanted to look up a video on the VG-15, which was a last-ditch rifle at the end of World War II that the Germans tried to shove into the hands of the Volkssturm. And I found Ian's Forgotten Weapons video. Now, this is a long time ago. This is before Ian became nearly as big as he is now with Forgotten Weapons. And I found a video of him in Europe shooting a VG-15. I'm like, wow, this is cool. Someone not just talking about a VG-15, but actually demonstrably firing it. And so then I started looking around other videos he had on the channel, and I saw a video of him trying very hard to shoot one of Rick Smith's SMG guns, FG-42 reproductions, at the Rio Salado 3-gun match. And they have a lot of rules up at the Rio Salado 3-gun match in terms of how you can handle the weapons, what ammunition you can use, blah, blah, blah. And I could tell that he was very constrained by the limits of what you're allowed to do at that match with that gun. And I just sent him an email. I'm saying, I see what you're trying to do, and I think there's a match near you, considering you appear to be located in Arizona, that would be far better for your goals. And I sent him a link to the 2-gun action challenge match, and lo and behold, he showed up. And that's how I met Ian. This is years ago now. And we started doing more and more stuff together at the match, and shooting weird and old guns at the match against one another for fun. And then we started realizing, wow, this is another venue and another discussion that's not really Forgotten Weapons. We could branch out, take our historic interests and knowledge of diverse range of firearms, and turn it into another channel. And that's how InRange came to be. That's how it became to be a collaborative effort between Ian and myself. Ian already had Forgotten Weapons, and so we brought my interests and knowledge base to the table, which is, I call it the Ian Modernization Project sometimes, as a joke, obviously. And so by combining those efforts, we figured we could do something that was kind of unique and different to the internet video content creation world. And hopefully, some of you agree that we're doing that, and I think we're seeing that with some of our success and what we're seeing out of Patreon so far. Kyle H. Have you, Karl, done any force-on-force training with simunitions or similar? And what do you think, what are your thoughts on incorporating that into civilian defensive firearms classes? Yes, I've done a lot of force-on-force training. I think it is quintessential, and I think it's eye-opening when you do actual force-on-force with simunitions against a live, breathing human being, how things actually go down in a real fight. I would say that the most important and significant training course I ever took was South Narc's ShivWorks ECQC class. That is a 2 or 3 day straight-up force-on-force class where you are in padded, well, you have a padded helmet on, you typically have a Glock that's firing simunitions, and they set up scenarios and you go complete hands-on, wrestling to the ground, choked out, blacking out sometimes. The fight does not end until Craig, the instructor, calls it off. And sometimes it'll be 1 versus 1, 1 versus 2, 1 versus 4. Sometimes it doesn't turn into a gunfight. Sometimes you can talk your way out of it. And anything goes. You can beat them, shoot them, run away from them, whatever you think will work. And that is a litmus test of what you think a gunfight is versus the reality of a gunfight. When you have 2 guys on top of you trying to pull their gun out of your hand and shoot you with your own firearm, it is a giant wake-up call to the reality of what a gunfight is to a civilian should they have to land up in one. You'll learn from that class you want to avoid a gunfight at all costs. De-escalation and avoidance is your #1 goal in all situations. And you'll also learn through a course like that what really works and what does not work. And I'll tell you right now that I'm not saying there should be a requirement, but if the South Narc ECQC class was a requirement, a force-on-force requirement for getting your CCW permit, the amount of derp we would hear from people that carry guns on the internet would go away dramatically. Because when you are quite literally blacking out on the ground with a knee in your throat and someone shooting you with your own gun because you screwed up, it's a lesson you will never forget. And I would like to see more people pursue that type of training so that we could have a higher level of conversation and a better understanding about what it means to be an armed citizenry. The other thing that's interesting about that is you start learning that other junk you carry with you that you think is advantageous to you frequently is not. In that class, for example, you could have some people had on dead or dummy backup knives, folders or other things. They have no edge on them, of course. And knives that you have on you, when you're in a grappling situation, very quickly become knives being stuck into you. Anything people can grab off you, they will use it against you. And if you can't protect the weapons that are on your body, whether it's a firearm or a knife or both, you can't protect yourself in a grappling situation. Your own weapons will be used against you. And force-on-force is the litmus test to really break and shatter these myths. Other things that aren't necessarily grappling situations with force-on-force, other courses I've taken as well, getting off the X, getting out of the way of line of fire, movement comes before gunfire. Getting out of the way becomes more relevant than getting the gun out fast. Old-timey stuff like the speed rock, where people thought they could draw their gun and rock back to fire the gun before they got stabbed by an assaulter, is absolute nonsense. And when you test it in a force-on-force environment, you will find out quickly that speed rocking turns into you on the ground being stabbed to death. Doesn't work. Does not work. And so a lot of this garbage that's out there on the internet would be squelched, or at least there'd be a cooling effect on it, because the real-world force-on-force training and the lessons that come from real-world force-on-force training are not easily forgotten. In fact, they're somewhat terrifying. All right, we got a bunch of AR-15 questions to deal with now. Collin S. I'm looking forward to building an AR-15 in the coming months, very similar to yours, Karl, so thanks for the inspiration. Glad to hear it. I'm leaning towards the Tennessee Arms polymer lower, and what are your thoughts on that? I also want iron sights to start off with. Any suggestions? I will be mounting a folding sight to the barrel. And for the nerd in you, what are your thoughts on the new Alien movie? Alright, cool, we got a lot of stuff to talk about here. So, building an AR in the similar months, I'm leaning towards the Tennessee Arms polymer lower. Before I answer this question, I have to look up the Tennessee Arms polymer lower. I have never used a Tennessee Arms polymer lower. However, it appears to be just another polymer lower that's manufactured identically to the original AR-15 lower. So when you take an original aluminum AR-15 lower and manufacture that exact thing in very similar dimensions in polymer, no go. Doesn't work. Will break. The buffer tube assembly mounting point will break and other points will break on the gun. The reason we promote specifically the GWAX Cav Arms Mark II polymer lower is because it is the only polymer lower that we've dealt with that was designed from the ground up to be a polymer lower. Meaning it was redesigned within the specifications to be able to fit an AR-15 upper, and be able to take standard triggers and such. But the reality is, the reason it's a fixed stock is the buffer tube assembly is part of the stock. It is not screwed into a threaded area of polymer, even if that polymer was reinforced with some metal. The pistol grip is integral to keep rigidity amongst the polymer stock. The polymer lower. The polymer lower is a little bit bulkier in terms of overall dimensions to increase the strength and rigidity of it, being a polymer instead of aluminum. So I would say if you're going to go with a polymer lower, which I think is a very modern way to lean forward into the AR-15 build, I can only recommend one, and we are not sponsored by them. This is not a sponsorship thing, but I can tell you that any polymer lower that's manufactured similar to or identical to the specifications of an aluminum counterpart is a no-go. That is a fragile idea. It's a bad idea. If you want the original dimensions and you want the cool folding stock, or not folding, collapsible stock or adjustable overall length of stock, or you want to be able to put on your own pistol grip, go aluminum. Do not go polymer. If you want to go for the lightweight savings and the rigidity and durability of a polymer lower, I'm only aware of one on the market that meets what I think are the right design goals, and that's the G-Wax. Sorry, it's just what it is. In terms of iron sights, I like the Magpul ones. If you're going to have folding sights, the Magpul Pro series are really nice. I'd recommend those. They're really low and out of the way on the gun, and they're adjustable, and they're durable. So that's what I'd recommend there. And what do I think of the new Alien movie having ARs in it? I don't know. I guess I didn't really pay attention to that in the trailer. I will find out more when I see it. Will I build a clone from the gun from the movie? No. We're dealing with the what would Stoner do AR, and I'm more interested in performance than I am necessarily a clone of any particular movie gun. So that's generally not my interest. So, nope, sorry, it's just not my thing. Movies and guns used in movies just doesn't really turn my crank, and I don't really ever bother with making guns from movies or whatever. It just isn't my thing. Joseph R. I recently attended a rifle class and observed a lot of rifles with a red dot magnifier combo. What is your opinion on this configuration? I think it's a great configuration. I think it's an underappreciated configuration. It does add bulk, and the reality is when the magnifier is flipped out of the way, it's a little weird because it's in your peripheral vision, but you can learn to ignore it. When you flip it on, you get a lot of the advantages of 3 or 4x out of it. I think that combined with the ACSS reticle in the Hollow Sun, which we did a review of, is a fantastic sighting system, and the ability to go from a red dot, which has no eye relief, to an eye relief required magnified sight picture is fantastic. It does add some bulk and weight to the gun, so you have to consider that, but I think that the red dot and magnifier combination is underappreciated, and I think it really is an excellent practical world configuration. I say go for it. Terry B, what are your thoughts on AR-57 uppers? Thank you. I don't have a lot of thoughts on them. I'm not sure I understand why. If you were going to go SBR, then I would get that. I could see that making sense, because then you're not overbore like you would be with a similar barrel length with a 5.56 round. But if you're going for a standard, at least 16-inch length barrel for NFA compliance, I don't see the purpose of a 5.7 upper. You can go with 5.56, have the extra better power, more better power. You can deal with a standard, probably cheaper cartridge to deal with that's more easily accessible, and so therefore I do not see any real reason for an AR-57 upper besides cool factor. If I were going to deal with an AR, a 5.7 chambered long arm, I would go with the P90. The PS90 is made for that, gives you a 50-round magazine, and it's got advantages in terms of overall size, weight, etc. that the AR would not, even with an AR 5.7 upper. So I think it's kind of pointless, to be honest. Casey, what do you think about side charging uppers? If you had one to use, would you prefer non-reciprocating or reciprocating? The only non-reciprocating uppers I've seen can still use normal bolt carrier groups, whereas the reciprocating bolt carrier groups need a modified BCG and possibly a modified upper. I don't see the point of side charging uppers. I don't understand a lot of the hatred for the current charging system that's in the AR-15. I have really never seen a problem with it. If you have a good, high quality, strong charging handle on a standard AR-15 system, they're fine. They work great. In fact, some of them can do things like deflect gas and etc. from the semi-DI system. So I think the side charging upper thing is a solution to a problem that doesn't really exist, and I don't know why. Now, some people like it, they want it, that's cool. It's also another ingress point for dirt and filth. I'm not sure that that's a good idea. Why do you want to cut more slots into your gun? And the standard AR-15 charging handle system is really good about keeping stuff out of the system. If I were to get one, would I want non-reciprocating or reciprocating? I don't care. I don't care about when handles reciprocate. I don't see a problem with it, and when they don't reciprocate, that's fine too. As long as you can keep your fingers and goodies out of the way, it doesn't matter to me. So I'd say I would not have a preference in that regard. Alright, a couple questions about the Devo, the Leupold Devo. Nathan W. I know you guys are somewhat interested in the Leupold Devo, at least in concept, as you've mentioned it in a video or two. Do you think the idea would be seen as less of a gimmick if the whole optic could be stacked in a footprint that was in line with the barrel instead of swung over the side of the gun? Of course, allowing a red dot to be attached on top with standard co-witness height and having the kind of shared airbox for two sights. I like the idea, but of course Leupold's the only one making such a product, and at $1,200 is a tough sell, especially when it adds bulk. You know, I have one. I have been threatening to do a review of it for a while. I finally did use it at a match, and I've done some shooting in the field with it off a bipod from static positions. In static positions, it seems like a really cool thing. Once you got it set up properly, when you get behind it, you're not moving your head around. It's really easy to get behind it and use it fairly well. It has a pretty limited field of view and a really limited eye box. You have to really get in the right spot to get a good sight picture with it, which if you configure properly, like I said, off a bipod in a prone position or whatever, that's not a big deal. When I went to use it in the match, I found it to be very, very difficult to use. It was very hard to get a sight picture with it, especially when you were like resting on something or in an awkward position, unlike a static position. It does add bulk to the right side. I had problems when I was moving or navigating around barricades or around structures. If the right side of the gun was occluded by something like a car or a wall, you couldn't use the Devo at all, of course, because it's offset to the side. And on top of that, mine, which I think is very much an anomaly for Leupold, it broke. That's really weird. Leupold is a very high quality manufacturer. I would put utter faith in their products. I shipped it back to them, and they shipped me a brand new one in a box, by the way. They definitely honor their warranty, but that was just another weird thing. I have to say that I am negative on the Devo at this point. I would not say buy it. I would say don't bother with it. It's a neat idea. I think that there should be kudos provided to Leupold for trying something different. But unfortunately, the execution it doesn't work. It doesn't work out. It's not usable in a practical environment. It's usable from static positions, and that's about it, for me at least. And I'm not a fan at this point. If it could be something where it was all in line and you didn't have the bulk off to the side and that eye box could be dealt with, maybe less magnification but a better field of view with a more forgiving eye box, I think that would have a lot of merit, especially if it was built as one unit, red dot and magnified optic below it as one thing. I think that'd be very cool. Maybe that'll be the next iteration of the Devo. Stefan N. Speaking about the Devo, how's it going? What do you think of it? You seem quite fond of it and then advised against it. Oh, I guess I sort of answered his question. Yep, didn't work well in a practical environment. On the clock, all things start becoming more realized, and the Devo kind of stunk on the clock, especially in a very practical shoot and move environment. Top of that, it broke, and the extra bulk and stuff and the eye relief problems, I can't recommend it. I'm sorry. Walther CCP by Patriot. Karl, how crushed were you when you first heard of the Walther CCP safety recall? Were you emotionally invested in the pistol, like we all get with certain guns? Wow, there's some interesting things to say there. No, I wasn't crushed at all, and I'm not emotionally invested in any guns. I prefer certain designs, and I think you can see that over time, and that's based on experiences with them. My scores and skill set and such and performance with an AR is excellent compared to certain guns. I think AKs are great, for example, is another example. I have had great success with the Walther CCP regardless of the recall. Was I crushed? No. I was annoyed in that I had to make a video about it and I have to ship the gun back, but I'm not crushed because I don't have an emotional investment in any guns. They're tools, and I do not understand why anyone has an emotional investment in any gun. If you do, I would be introspective and analyze why, because it's just a tool. So, nope, not crushed, sending it back, and I will let everyone know what happens post-recall. Repair. How do your matches work? Shaun E. Does the timer also act as the range officer for the run, or is there a separate RO? Does the timer also call certified steal hits? Who scores and tapes paper? Do you have multiple timers and ROs? Finally, how is the scoring reported and recorded? Do timer and shooter report to someone recording scores on a spreadsheet? Alright, okay, wow, there's a lot going on there. So, typically there's a guy with a timer, it's a little blue box or black box or gray box. They hit the button that goes beep, and what that does is records every shot fired over time. So, a shot fired at 5 seconds, a shot fired at 6 seconds, a shot fired at 35 seconds. And so, that's how we get time. 35 seconds would be the time for that stage, for example. So the timer does that. They're behind them. They're also the safety officer for the shooter running at that time. So as the shooter's running and gunning, he makes sure that they're not breaking the 180. They're not doing things like running with their finger on the trigger. They're the ones calling out things like muzzle, whatever. They tend to also be the one that calls out the hit. Hit! miss, whatever. So the person with the timer is the safety officer, range officer at the time. Sometimes we will double stack that and have someone doing something like counting hits on their fingers if it's something that's particularly complex. The guy with the timer is the guy that's doing the safety and generally calling the hits and being the RO. There'll be someone in the background that'll have the score sheets on a clipboard, and they're the ones tracking the score. So once they do the scoring, the RO will turn around and say, time, 35 seconds, 1 miss, and there'll be someone in the background writing that down on the score sheet. So once all the score sheets are together and we're done with the match, those get turned into the range office. Myself or one of our volunteers will actually do the scoring. We have a piece of software we use for that. They type in the name, they type in all the information, that tabulates it, turns it into an HTML file, and that's what we have on our website for the scores for that match. That's about it. Hopefully that makes sense. Alright, we got a lot of questions about YouTube and demonetization, and I think that's important, especially as a follow-up. Michael R. As part of your effort to decentralize InRange, have you and Ian considered making videos available via BitTorrent? I feel that although it's extremely unlikely that YouTube, Full30, and Facebook would take your videos down at once, it wouldn't hurt to have them truly decentralized. I'm itching to set up a NAS and start loading up with InRange content. Yeah, no, I have considered that, and at this point, one of the central messages we have of this demonetization effort and being completely viewer supported is that the product is not the file, the MP4 file. The bits themselves, the video file, the MP3 file isn't the product. The product is the content inside of that. What you guys value, if you hopefully value, what we are trying to make is value to a consumer and a viewer. The value is in the information, the entertainment, whatever you personally get out of it. That's where the value is, and that's not something you can transfer over the internet. That's something that only you can ascertain and determine if you're getting out of it, and that's our goal. So that's the product, right? The files themselves, I don't care how they get distributed, and that's why we're decentralized, and we're distributing on Facebook, YouTube, Full30, VidMe, and we may at some point do BitTorrent. I'm not opposed to it. Doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that the viewer base gets value out of our content, which is what's inside the video, not the file itself, and that a large enough subset of the people that feel that they have value out of that are willing to contribute to the Patreon account to keep the project alive. That's it. So would we use BitTorrent? Sure, just haven't bothered yet, because in reality it was easier at this point to set up on VidMe, Full30, Facebook, and YouTube, as those are systems already designed to do that. And it's relatively much harder than one, but relatively simple to upload that to multiple places and then schedule the content to be distributed at the same time and date, which is a big part. Scheduling is important. Brian C. In light of InRange demonetizing the YouTube videos, will you and Ian be seeking other revenue streams outside Patreon? More InRange merchandising, a line of InRange-inspired lightweight carbines? Or is the current plan to stay focused on creating content and not be distracted with revenue-generating side projects? I don't know. Right now, our focus is on the content. We do have some shirts, of course. We might put out some coffee mugs. I don't know. Perhaps we work with a third party on that. We might. It would be cool to see the What Would Stoner Do guns being produced by GWAX or someone like that. That would be really cool. I don't know. Right this minute, I will tell you that our focus is on the content. Our focus is on creating videos that you guys want to watch and are willing to support. So might we do other revenue streams outside of Patreon? Maybe. Right now we are not. I will let you know if we do. Andrew C. 2 sub-questions, if you will, concerning your recent decision to demonetize. I enjoy playing the devil advocate and would like to know your opinion on these counters. 1. In terms of advertising in general, since it is their private company's money, don't they have the choice to spend and associate their money how they choose? If they don't support firearms, isn't that their right to do so? 2. Concerning your point as money as a weapon, why shouldn't the old media use their money as a weapon to keep YouTube and other platforms in a position that benefits them? Love the content, love your insight. I agree with you on both counts. Absolutely. It's absolutely their advertising money. If they don't want their ad money associated with firearms-related content, it's their right to pull it. Of course it is. There's no problem with that. I get that entirely, and we've never argued that it is our right to get advertising money from an advertiser. It's not our right at all. There's no such thing as rights in that regard. What they are doing is they're being a corporation. Corporations are typically amoral, and not immoral. They work in whatever is their best interest, and generally are predators. Okay? If we look at that in the natural order of things, you treat it responsibly. It's like fire. It's either a servant or it can consume you, right? However, there are times where the conversation is one in which is inappropriately sensitive to our community. Firearms, in my opinion, is an inappropriately sensitive topic. It shouldn't be a sensitive topic, but it is. Civil rights in the 1960s, still today, is a sensitive topic. If advertisers don't want to be associated with civil rights, or don't want to be associated with firearms-related content, even though they shouldn't be sensitive topics, but are, it's their right to do so. So do they have the right to not fund us with advertising? Absolutely. In fact, that's why we demonetize. Right now, we're not accepting any money from them at all because we don't want their overhead. We don't want their oversight. We don't want them to have any control over our content. So by being completely viewer-supported, we're doing really the open market thing, and we're going to the people that are willing to support a sensitive topic, whether or not it should be sensitive or not. Corporations don't want to support it because it's sensitive? Fine. Let's hope and find out that the consumer wants this content, and therefore broken those chains upon us, and they don't need to be worried about associating themselves with sensitive content like ours because we don't want it, right? So we don't have a right to the advertising dollars, and they absolutely have a right not to spend it. Concerning your point is money as a weapon, why shouldn't the old media use their money as a weapon? Of course they should. In fact, if I was part of the old media, I would absolutely be looking at how to destroy and or usurp YouTube right now. If I saw my old views going away, and I saw my power getting dwindled by the new media, I would be right now on the corporate warpath to destroy the new media or take it over, which is exactly what you're seeing. This is a natural order. They are amoral predators, and they will work to their best interests. It is in our interest to work to the best of our interest. So if they want to take their advertising dollars away, or they want to wage a war against the media, they can, but it's not in our best interest as consumers, viewers, and citizens of the internet to allow them to mangle, manipulate, and centralize and aggregate control of the internet. It's not in our interest. So we work in our interests, they work in their interests, and my argument is we're bigger than they are. They just don't know it yet. Hopefully those answer your questions appropriately. Last one, James M. Given the recent issues with YouTube and his revenue sharing, what other platforms are you looking to post on? I know you post on Full30, but what platform do you guys prefer people watch on? For example, if one platform is paying you more per view than another. Well, there's only one platform that's paying us per view right now, and that's Full30. They have specific firearms-related advertisers, and as a result, we are monetized there. We are generating no monetization or ad revenue from Facebook, VidMe, or YouTube at this point. Right now, Full30's views are in the tank. I don't know why, worse than they've ever been. YouTube views are good as always, although down because we are seeing people also watch on Facebook, which is deprecating our view count on YouTube. The reality is, it doesn't matter if you watch it. If you want to watch it on BitTorrent, you want to watch it on Full30, you want to watch it on YouTube, you want to watch it on Facebook, because we are going with a viewer-supported model, we are not garnering revenue from where you watch it. I would recommend you watch it to whatever is most comfortable for you. If it's easy to watch on Facebook, watch it on Facebook. If it's easier to watch it on YouTube, watch it on YouTube. If you want to go proactive and watch it on Full30 to generate whatever ad revenue we can from Full30, feel free, but I'm not going to obligate you to do that because, once again, this is a viewer-supported endeavor, and if it's a viewer-supported endeavor, I would like to have the content wherever the viewers that support us feel that it's most comfortable and easiest for them to consume it. I hope that makes sense. I don't know how long this was, but it feels really long. That's it for now. This is another long Q&A. I hope you found this to be interesting and insightful, and I thank you guys for the support. This has been an interesting couple weeks with the demonetization effort, and I want to tell you that we are extremely humbled and thankful for the support we've seen from the community, and the reality is it appears that if this continues to go the way it is, that our model of being a viewer-supported with no corporate overlords is a feasible reality, and for that I am thankful, and thank all of you out here for doing that. If you can't support us on the Patreon side directly, the other thing we need your help with is to subscribe. Please do. Even if you're not going to watch it on YouTube, please subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe to all the mechanisms that we have to distribute content. Full30, Facebook, YouTube, VidMe, Instagram, and Twitter. And that way we can always communicate with you. And those subscriptions will help us get the message out regardless of where you actually watch it. And the other thing you can do for us, which is hugely important, is share the content. Share it widely. Tell people to share it. Ask them to share it. Because we can no longer depend on the automatic algorithms on YouTube to do it for us. All right? Thank you for watching, guys. Stay tuned. A lot more to come.